Well, here we are again then. We're off out for a ride, and it's lovely and sunny, isn't it? The weather forecast says rain doesn't start till 1 o'clock. Now, the forecast, of course, was wrong. The forecast was local forecast, and as we approach Kendal, I'm afraid we do get some rain. However, we're undaunted. Now, the reason for this ride? Well, there's a number of reasons for this ride. I counted up to 6 and I gave up. So the first reason was because I have modified the windscreen a little bit, and I've got it up to its maximum height that you can have it, so that I'm hoping it will stop any buffeting. And I also wanted to see, it's a blustery day actually, it's quite a fair bit of wind around, and I wanted to see how that affected the handling of the machine. And in fact it didn't seem to give any problems at all, which really surprised me. After last time when I took the windscreen off, I thought, oh, this is so much more nimble. And in fact I don't think there's any real difference. So I misled myself there, and others too, of course, who may have listened to this. Not many. Right, anyway, yes, so that's one reason. The other reason, well, I've got my waterproof liner in the jacket of my Oxford advanced riding suit. I didn't bother with the waterproof lining in the trouser part. That simply had the quilted warm part, and I thought, that's adequate, it's not going to rain, is it? But I thought, well, I will put the waterproof liner in the jacket, because I can't fit the quilted liner in the jacket. It's I chose a size which is a snug fit, let's just put it that way. Perhaps I need to lose a pound or 2 or 3, but anyway, the waterproof lining does actually cut a lot of the wind out, and I do sometimes ride with a very bright yellow jacket, which also cuts out all the cold air. And I thought, well, they've got windscreen on, surely that must help, and it did, of course. It very little buffeting. Yes, and buffeting, that's the key, isn't it? Because riding along with the camera there, that bloke's doing about 70. I'm doing 60 along here. Why is he doing 70? Goodness me. He got in time, thankfully. Right, where were we? Yes. No, I've forgotten the thread of this. Jacket. Are we talking about jacket now, or are we talking about buffeting? I think we're talking about buffeting, aren't we? The wind, although I made a mini windscreen to go onto the camera, when I took the windscreen off, I did notice that the lead which runs from the camera charging point to the USB point on the meter, so that the battery keeps charged all the time I'm riding, I noticed that was affected by the wind, that it would move it slightly, and that would make a crackling noise on the microphone part, which was a bit annoying, I must say. Now I always turn the volume down, the sound down on these rides, down to a 20 setting, so that I can actually talk over it later. And also, of course, we want to talk about other things too. Now I know others ride with a microphone, on their helmet and all that sort of thing, and that's lovely. I can't do that. I can't talk and ride at the same time. I know, yeah, it seems odd, but there we are. It's just me. I like to think my thoughts as I'm riding, and then I like to talk about them later on in the quiet of my studio, as we call it, out here in the conservatory. Yeah, so anyway, it's still nice and sunny, as you can see, and we're riding through Burton and Kendal. So I had that in because I'm sure most of you recognise this, because it's a fairly familiar ride, although we do actually go to a different part on this ride. So that's another reason for this ride. Another reason, if you need another reason, well, I'm trying out some TCX motorcycle boots, which I bought when I ordered this Meteor motorcycle way back in January 2020. I thought, oh, well, right, I need motorcycle gear ready for when this motorcycle arrives. Now, bearing in mind I hadn't ridden in 40 years, the last time I rode, I had Valstaff waxed cotton outfit and gold top boots. I think they were gold top boots. I'm not quite sure. I think they were a slightly different boot, a more sturdy boot, perhaps than the gold top. I'm not sure. Can't quite remember. But yes, and all that went when in the 80s when I moved from a motorcycle and tire car, which was what I had, and I actually bought my Beetle so that we could go much further touring and pack the Beetle with all of our tent and stuff like that. And anyway, my wife, Marion, she got a bit fed up with sitting in the sidecar. She said, "God, this is cold and bumpy," and quite right too. It was a what's only a Monaco sidecar, and it had a small wheel, not like Chris's motorcycle and sidecar, who has got the same size wheels all round. Much more sensible idea. Anyway, yes, that little wheel used to fall down potholes. So yes, I bought all this motorcycle gear, and one of the things I chose were these TCX boots, waterproof boots. And at the time when the motorcycle arrived, I couldn't get on with them. It had a heel and toe on the motorcycle, as some people may know, and I didn't get on with that either. I know that some people say, "Oh, you didn't give it a fair try." Well, actually, I did give it a fair try. Tried it for a couple of weeks. That was enough. And I decided, well, I've always used a toe version without a heel, and I'll stick with that. So yeah, we've moved on from the heel and toe, but I did find that the motorcycle boots just felt clumsy, and I thought, well, were they like that when I used to ride before? I mean, I rode in boots all the time. So I never really persevered with the boots, which was upsetting because they were quite expensive. They were very expensive, and they're a lovely pair of boots. So I thought, right, this morning you've just got to persevere. So I popped them on, and with my riding gear in PPE equipment all built into it, which we never had, of course, just a thin pair of jeans and precious little else. Right, so anyway, yes, we're on our way, and how are the boots? Wow, absolutely amazing. I didn't have any problems at all. Changed gear easily up and down. I could feel the toe, I could feel the pedal, absolutely fine. So that was a real revelation. I thought, oh, at last, I can use these boots and not the well, I have been riding in boots, but they're not proper motorcycle boots. They were boots I bought, and I'd stuck it over the toe part to stop it wearing through. And whilst they were okay, they were fine in the summer, but I think these are much more sturdy, so I feel much happier with those. Another reason for being on this ride, well, I suppose one of the other reasons was because a few of you have actually been quite interested in that previous ride where I talked about the Dragon Rally, and then subsequently the other ride up to North Wales and Sunshine. And I had written all that out, that both of those rides, and I did actually reread the second part, which I added to in a bit more detail. And a couple of you have actually said, well, I'd like to know a little bit more about that second ride because it would involve women. Well, yes, it did. Well, yes, it did involve women, and a chap or two, of which I was one. Yeah, still 19, of course. Just coming up for 20. I was. July is my birthday, and it was in the June. And the weather was so much nicer. In fact, I did look at the 1967 Dragon Rally, and they had brilliant sunshine. Oh, wouldn't it have been lovely? Although I wouldn't have had a story, would I, to tell if had it been lovely weather. I thought, there's no story to tell here. But anyway, getting back to the Women's International Motorcyclist Association, of which Diane joined when she, I think she was in it when she had her Honda 90, and she decided to go for something a little bit bigger when she passed her test and the RACACU test. So she went along to John Fisher Motorcycles, which is in Portsmouth, in New Road, Portsmouth, and they were a Honda agent. Now, he was well in advance, wasn't he? He knew, he could see what was coming. So he became a Honda agent, and they had in there second hand, or pre-loved I think it's called, a Honda CB72, and the chap had put a silver fairing on it, which was very smart fairing. Unfortunately, the self-starting, you could only self-start it, you couldn't start it on the kickstart, which Diane didn't want to do anyway, and the electric start had failed. So before she bought it, she asked me along to have a look at it to see what I thought. I said, well, it looks absolutely great. I said, they started it and you could hear it running. They bump started it, and it sounded absolutely fine, lovely and smooth. As of course, it was a Honda, wasn't it? It was going to be very long lasting. So I said, yeah, it looks absolutely wonderful. And so she decided to buy it, but they had to go into the workshop to be checked over and repaired, because obviously self-starter didn't work. This is a horrible area. I've not been up as far as this before. This leads on to the M6, this bit, and it leads into Crooklands apparently. This is as far as I've ever been. So this little road leads down to Crooklands. And anyway, getting back to the story. Yes, so anyway, see, she decided to go for it. It was in the workshop, and when it was ready, what they'd done, so that they fitted a new electric starter, but they cut a bit out where the kickstart was. Oh, she was so upset that they'd done that. Why have you done that? Oh, well, you need to be able to kickstart it. Well, modern motorcycles don't have that, and I'm sure that the Honda would have been perfectly okay for the time she would have had it. So anyway, yes, so she rode it back to mine, and for me to check over, she wasn't convinced they'd done a decent job. So I said, could I have a little look over it? Well, I did notice that they hadn't topped up the battery, so we topped up the battery, fortunately some battery fluid, distilled water to top that up, and yeah, just check the plugs and bits and pieces. It all seemed fine. And she rode it home to her flat in Kingston Crescent. And it was about a week later. I'd been the RAC ACU training scheme. Part of it was theory. That was on a Thursday evening, and we met actually in the police station in Kingston Crescent, which was only a few doors away from her flat. And I used to go ride there on a Thursday evening and park in the police station. Catch me doing that now. No, thank you. Especially, the Tiger 100 I had at that time, as well as the Norton Model 50, had some passing Gold Star silencers. Oh my God, they were noisy. Oh, they were dreadful things. And you had to go through a bit of a tunnel to get into the police station, and the noise. Well, I think about it now, they never came out and said, ooh, bloody hell's that? So, anyway, excuse my French. Yeah, so I used to park there, and afterwards, a couple of us used to go back to Diane's, to her basement flat, and we chat away into the wee small hours, as one did when one was that age. And they were great fun. And after they left, actually, they left a bit earlier. I was only 19, and I didn't have to go. It was I was a bit of a late bird in those days. And she said, I've joined the Women's International Motorcycle Association, she said, and we had great fun, didn't we, when we went up to the Dragon Rally? I said, oh, absolutely. He lied through his teeth. Would you fancy riding up with me to a meet in North Wales again, in Betsy Quid, Betus, I think it's pronounced. They're holding this rally there. So I leapt at the opportunity again of sharing a tent. I said, "Are we going to use the same?" Oh yes, the same tent. She said, "Yeah, we'll borrow Dad's tent again." I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah, so fabulous." And she said, "I'll be riding my Honda, of course," she said, because now I've got that. It's ideal for that. What would you be riding? Well, I was actually thinking about getting rid of the Tiger 100 because I was building a Triton a disaster of a project that was. Yes, it was a Manx Norton frame, which I had, and Bonneville engine, which I didn't. I did have a BSA RRT2 got gearbox from a Gold Star. I had front forks and bits of. Long story short, it was soaking up money like nobody's business. I was an apprentice on a very low wage, and I thought, this is never going to happen. So I was between bikes. I'd sold the Tiger 100 to get money together for the Triton, and so someone at work said, I know someone who's got a Model 50 Norton 350. Would you be interested? I said, well, what does he want for it? And he said, well, £25. And I said, well, it seems right to me. I can afford that. So yes, that's how the Norton came to me, this 350 Norton, and it was okay, except the handling was diabolical. If you had two up, if you're on a long sweeping bend, it would do a sort of yawing. It was a bit scary, to be honest. It certainly was no featherbed frame. No, it wasn't. It was a pre-featherbed model. But anyway, we carry on. So I was on that again. Which I actually bought that way back in the I think January of that previous year before the Dragon Rally. So yes, I was on the Norton, because by now it was really worn out. I mean, the bore was so short. I checked the bore, and it was a bit oversized, let's put it that way. So it was using a fair bit of oil, and it was really down on power up. Only had 18 brake horsepower to start with on a good day. Which was a couple of brake horsepower down on a Meteor. So yes, we went off. I collected her on the Saturday morning of the rally from her flat at about 7 in the morning it was, and off we went. Now the ride up was absolutely lovely. We went up through, as I recall, the route we took was up through Ross-on-Wye, up that way, and the roads were so quiet. And we actually got there around about 11 in the morning, and it was a lovely campsite. Oh, beautiful campsite, flat. Oh, it was wonderful. After Llanberis, it was a joy. It was all sunny, it was warm, and so we unloaded my bike, because that was another reason why she wanted me along, of course. It was because I could carry all the stuff on it, on my bike, and so she didn't have to spoil the looks of her Honda. She could arrive in style, couldn't she? Which she did. So she helped me unpack to be fair, she didn't help me unpack the tent, and we got it set up. Okay. I don't know, we must have borrowed a stone or something. There must have been a stone or two around to get the poles in. And yes, we got it up, and chatted to some of the other people who were arriving, the females arriving, and yeah, I mean, we had talk about international. It really was. We had females from Germany, Sweden, France. It was fantastic. There were about 30 of us, I think, all told. The lady and her partner, who was organising it all, they were lovely to talk to. Now, I was 19, and quite honestly, my conversational skills were diabolical. Are they any better now, you ask yourself? I'd like to think they are. Well, it was awful. I think, looking back on it, they really put up with me, didn't they? They were in their late 20s, 30s, into their 40s, a couple in their 50s. And one lady who'd come from Germany, she'd ridden with her BMW Stibe. And a lovely machine it was too. It was white. And now on this ride, we'll get back to this ride here, the rain is just starting. So you know, all the weather today, nice sunshine, a bit of rain, dark skies. That chap's let me pass. Well, nice of him, wasn't it? Didn't have to do that, did it? Yes, so anyway, yes, we're getting some rain now, so I'm afraid that the ride, you'll just have to listen to my voice now and listen to the exhaust note, which it was quite a nice exhaust note. Right, where are we? Oh yes, we've arrived at the campsite and we're chatting, well they're all chatting away, and I'm adding my two penneth occasionally. But looking back, and I don't know what I spoke about. very long. Probably just kept quiet. And we talked about the ride up, probably, how nice it was. And I think somebody did actually ask me about the Model 50 Norton. What do I think of it? I mean, they all had fairly modern bikes, modern for the time. Let's put it that way. There were a couple of Tiger 100s actually, which were in a sort of trials trim, enduro trim, I suppose you'd call it. There were two ladies with those, and I must say I did like their tents. They had some sort of pod type tents, which was very new at the time, sort of hooped things with a built-in ground sheet. I would have a built-in ground sheet. Wouldn't that be nice? And the whole idea of camping, touring and camping appealed to me so much at that site, because it was so nice. The weather was so good. Everything was perfect. Good company. I mean, they were wonderful company. And we had sort of photo shops and things like that for us all. And I did actually have those photographs up in my album for a very long time. But unfortunately, must have been about a couple of years ago when I had a bit of a clear out, and I cleared them out. I regret that now, because I don't have any other photographs of that or the Dragon Valley. But I've got them in my memory, so that's okay. And you can't see much through that windscreen now, can you? You can see that. Chris will be pleased. You can see the Royal Enfield logo there, and he's always liked that one on the windscreen. Well, I do too. I must say, having the windscreen on there isn't a problem that I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh no, it's not going to be as nice to look through this windscreen as it was without. But actually, it's just as good, isn't it? I think so. So anyway, how far are we? We're 21 minutes in, 22 minutes almost, of a 26-minute ride. Well, this part of the ride is 26 minutes. I've cut some other bits out. And so riding along in this rain actually was quite pleasant. I thought it'd be awful, but I wear an open face helmet with a Bob Heath visor. I've always admired Bob Heath. He was a racing motorcyclist. I used to watch much of the racing. And a snap-on peak, because it's a Bell helmet and it's a 5-stud fixing. Very few 5-stud fixing open face helmets. There's only two. One is as far as I'm aware, the AGV, which I tried initially, and I didn't get on with the AGV. It cut all the sound out. But this Bell 500 custom is it's only white. It's not a custom one. That's very comfortable, and it's with the 5-stud fixing I can put a wraparound visor, and the peak is good because it cuts out. I don't know how people get on without a peak, but that's their choice. And the peak also cuts out some of the rain, so I'm able to sort of tilt my head down slightly, and I get a clearer vision through the visor. So yes, here we are at the at Betsy Good, and enjoying a little bit of rest before we venture out into the village or town of Betsy Good. And we popped in for lunch, and it was a lovely lady. She'd opened up her front room and into a little cafe. Oh, she really was an excellent cook. So we sat down and had a wonderful lunch with pots and pots of tea. Oh, it was everything about that ride was magnificent. We then ventured off into the marketplace, and Diane was most put out because they didn't have a copy of the Times to read. She had to buy a mirror. Well, she said, "Blimey, this is rubbish." She said, "Where's the Sunday Times? Where's the Times to read?" It wasn't a Sunday Time, but it was a Saturday. So no Times to read, which she was a bit put up about. But she did buy some pears. I remember her buying pears. And she did actually crack a joke about these pears. Held them up. Now that's most unusual for Diane. She wasn't. She was funny, but not quite. She certainly didn't crack that sort of joke. Anyway, yeah. We also bought some beer, and I think I bought a cigar. Now, why on earth I bought a cigar, I don't know. Yeah, and I had to buy some matches. I didn't smoke. Ridiculous. Anyway, I was away from home. So yes, back to the tent, and we consumed the beer in the evenings. I smoked a cigar. We did. Oh, we just chatted to the people. That's what you do at rallies. You chat to people when it's nice weather. You can sit out, have a glass of something, smoke a cigar if you want, and just chat. And it was absolutely wonderful. And I thought, yes, this is the life. You know, you've got a youngish blonde female with you, and you're in the company of all these lovely women, and oh, it was absolute bliss. Yes, so because on the Sunday no rain came into the tent that night, and Diane kept in her own sleeping bag, unfortunately, and I kept in mine. And then on the Sunday we rode back, and my poor old Norton, it couldn't manage the hills, so she romped up the hills, and I romped down them. So what I couldn't do on the hills, I did on the down bits, and I overtook her as we went down. Which she wasn't too pleased about. Why are you so slow up the hills? I said, well, poor old pug is worn out. Well, you have to get yourself a proper bike. And I realised, yes, I would. So anyway, we're coming to the end of our rather wet ride it's become. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've gone on and on and on. That's what happens when I have a glass of wine. I've had a glass of wine for lunch, so my apologies to all those that say, oh, here he goes again, talking about the past. Why don't they talk about the present? Or even the future? Well, we know where the future's leading us, so let's just talk about the present and have an eye on the past, shall we? Oh, I think that's the most sensible solution. So yes, we're riding in the rain, and it's rather pleasant. I do like to ride in the rain. I like to walk in the rain, and I hope you do too. See you soon. Bye.